Whether it's Friday night dinners, endless cups of coffee at Luke's, or enough takeout to feed an entire town, food is at the heart of Gilmore Girls. And today I am bringing a little piece of Stars Hollow into my own kitchen by recreating some of the most iconic recipes, in my opinion, from the show. So let's see if they're just as comforting in real life as they are on screen.
She's not serving salmon puffs.
Good night, Mr. Beckett.
We've never not served salmon puffs. Not in 25 years have we staged an event without salmon puffs.
Salmon puffs are an Emily Gilmore staple at DAR parties, so it was only natural for me to recreate them for this video. All you need is lemon, dill, I used frozen dill, as well as salmon and puff pastry dough. I started by finely chopping the frozen dill, cutting the lemon in half, and then adding the dill to the cream cheese. Then I squeezed some lemon juice on top, as well as added salt and pepper and mixed it. Next I took a piece of salmon and finely diced it before adding it to the cream cheese. Then I just mixed it all up and set it aside in the fridge. Then I rolled out the dough, took a glass and made little circles with it. Then I took a slightly smaller circle to make an equal amount of smaller circles, and then I took an even smaller circle and cut holes into that one. I used the outside of it to add it to the larger ones and make a bowl type of shape. Making these little bowls was honestly harder than I would like to admit, but then I just used a fork to poke some holes into it, and then I made an egg wash, added it on top of all of them to prep them a little bit, and then I added the mixture, and I tried to keep it just in the middle, but also that was kind of harder than expected. You want to keep it in the middle so that the sides of the pastry can still puff up properly. Then I put them in the oven at 375, and while I periodically checked in on them every couple of minutes, I did the dishes. Once I checked up on them and I realized that they were just about golden brown enough, I took them out of the oven and let them cool down before adding a little bit more salmon on top of them to make them look a little prettier. And I have to admit, maybe Emily Gilmore was right when she was panicking about there not being salmon puffs at the DAR party, because they were really delicious and also incredibly easy to make.
For that one, good, hot. Wait, I got another one. Better, hotter. Wait, I got one more. Sookies, what's with all the risotto? Lucian Mills orders the risotto, doesn't like it.
The magic risotto? You're kidding.
Not helping.
Is now a good time to say that I am not a chef or good at following recipes, because I really am neither. The next thing I made was Sookies Magic Risotto. The ingredients are chicken broth, arborio rice, wine, parsley, scallops, oil, butter, saffron, garlic, and shallots. I started by making the broth. You first need to separate the parsley leaves from the stems, crush some garlic, add it to the chicken broth, and then boil it. I also pre-cut the shallots for later. Making the broth was honestly the easiest part of the whole meal. All you do is you boil the broth, add the garlic and the parsley stems until all the flavors have combined, and then you strain it. You want the broth to be as clear as possible, which, as you can see, I spilled a lot. The goal is to have a clear broth that you can later on add to the rice to make the risotto with. I returned the same pot to the stove, toasted some saffron, you only need about half a teaspoon of it, and then added the broth back into the pot, brought it to a boil before removing it from the heat again completely. Next step is definitely where I messed up. I added oil and butter to a pan, waited until the butter started foaming, and once the butter was foaming, I added scallops in one layer to the pan. You're supposed to make sure that the scallops are dried before you put them in the pan, and I did try that, but unfortunately I used frozen scallops, so they were still moist in the middle, and while they did cook at the end of the recipe. I think if I had used scallops that were previously thawed fully, I would have gotten a better browning on them, and I think the taste would have been significantly better. Once the scallops were brown enough to my liking, I removed them from the pan and added the shallots, which I cooked until they were almost translucent. Then I added 2 cups of arborio rice, and I also cooked it in the pan until it started roasting just a little bit. The next thing I did was add the wine into the rice and let it cook out. I did use alcohol-free wine. That's just a personal preference. You can use any wine that you enjoy drinking. Since I'm not a wine person, I think I kind of messed up. Maybe Suki was right. Maybe the wine does make a big difference. But once the liquid was all cooked out, I started adding a ladle of the broth that we previously made. And the thing with risotto is that you are supposed to be constantly stirring it, which was so incredibly annoying. It was genuinely so much work because we had so much broth, and at first it looked like it was gonna take me more than 1.5 hours, but I think the total time it took me to make the risotto was 1.5 hours. I have to admit though, after the 4th ladle, I was starting to go a little crazy because my legs were hurting, I was hungry, everything was smelling so incredibly good, and all I wanted was to taste the risotto. Once I was 3/4 of the way done with the broth, I added the scallops back into the risotto so that they soak up a little bit of the flavor of the broth as well. And once I put in the very last ladle of broth that I still had, I added butter and let that melt and let all of the liquid cook out.
May I help you?
Yes. Hello, my name is Suki St. James. I'm the chef at the Independence Inn.
I know who you are.
You do? Well, I'm flattered.
I gave you a good review. I suggest you go home.
I don't care about the review. I want you to try this dish with this wine. I'll wait.
And now that I've also tried Suki's Magic Risotto, I think I can understand where the name came from because it was an experience. It was amazing. The flavors really just melt on your tongue. It was an experience. It was 10 out of 10 if it wasn't for the dreadful cooking process. I also ended up eating a salmon puff with the risotto together, and if I can just quote Aria's Kitchen, this is not allowed. This is not allowed.
I'm not going in there.
But the coffee is in there. And it's Danish Day. Are you seriously telling me that you're gonna let a stupid fight get in the way of Danish Day?
No, I'm not.
Good.
So go in there and order 2 coffees and 2 Danishes to go.
You're kidding, right?
Don't forget the napkins.
Mom, he's gonna know what's going on. He's not stupid.
He cannot prove that you're not ordering all that for yourself, can he? No. So, go on. Scoot, scoot. Mommy's right here.
Luke's Diner is probably the most popular place to be in Stars Hollow, and I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't also be there every single day, and for that reason it only felt fitting to recreate Luke's Danishes for Danish Day. I used apples instead of cherries simply because I prefer them, and I started by peeling the apples, cutting them into bite-sized cubes. In a small saucepan, I added some butter and let it brown before adding the apples into it. Then I added brown sugar and cooked it until the sugar dissolved. Once the apples were a little softer, I added some cinnamon and let that cook a little longer until I thought the apples were just the right amount of cooked. For the actual Danish cheese filling, I used cream cheese, powdered sugar, as well as a splash of heavy cream, mixed it together, and added it to a piping bag. Then I rolled out the pastry dough, cut very ugly rectangles into it, as well as repeating the whole, cutting another smaller rectangle into another one so that I can get the perfect rectangle bowl shape. I added the cream cheese mixture into the middle before adding the apples on top, letting that cook at 375 until golden brown, and that was it. And to eat the danishes, of course, you have to make...
I can't stand it. This is so unhealthy. Rory, please, put down that cup of coffee. You do not want to grow up to be like your mom.
I was gonna get up early. I was gonna get coffee.
There's no coffee.
And while I know that Lorelai and Rory drink their coffee completely black without any creamer, for me personally, I have to have even a little bit of cream in it to enjoy it, so I made a double shot of espresso, added creamer, and of course I had to use my Luke's mug. And in true Gilmore Girls fashion, I had to take a bite and then rush away from the scene because that is exactly what the girls would do as well. But thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you would like more cooking content, let me know which TV show, anime, game you'd like me to recreate recipes from, and I will see you in my next video.